Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to make a video for you guys trying real hard in Arena, but not really improving too much. I know you guys are using Hearth Arena as I am. I know you guys are watching some of my videos, learning from some of the examples, but it can be hard to draw in real information. So this is what this video is about. I get a lot of people asking me, Kripp, I still suck at Arena, please help. Help. Well, today I'm going to help you guys in a way to show you guys where I think I excel in my Arena adventures. Last month I had a 9-win average on my best consecutive 30. I actually made it second on the leaderboard, never lucky. Some guy made it like 9.07, I had 8.97. Yeah, you know, if I didn't get hit 30 times by the sniper guild along with the other sniping guys, whatever else, you know, probably would have made the difference. But you know what? At the end of the day, no one cares about that stuff. It's results oriented, and I got second place. But second place at 9-win average is still pretty damn good. Last month I played like 45 arenas, and my monthly average across everything was like 8.5. So terrific month in Arena, and I've been doing a lot of the same stuff that you guys have been doing. Now, recently, there has been some changes. They announced that the changes were happening, but they didn't really talk about what the changes were specifically, so it's up to us to figure it out. We've learned that basically Arena features a form of a bucket system where there's different buckets, the really good bucket, the really crap bucket, and a whole bunch of buckets in between, and cards fit in any one of these buckets. And recently they made more buckets. They made cards move from up and down different buckets and stuff. Basically makes the bucket system impossible to reverse engineer at this point, but we still have the stats. We still can see which cards are being played and how well the classes are doing through stat polling websites. So that is the part of Arena that I study kind of a lot, so I can tell what my odds are of getting punished at any given time. And because we recently had a change in the bucket system, a fairly large one, there is now new opportunity for you to be better than the average player in Arena, because now you will have the information available throughout this video, and you'll probably have a good idea of how to educate yourself in the future as changes come about in the game mode. So first off, where are we in Arena right now? These stats are all from Hearthstone Replay. So on Hearthstone Replay, Rogue is the top class in the game in Arena right now, followed by Warlock. That's come up a lot since the last hotfix change, I guess you'd call it. Then we have Paladin, and then we have a pretty sizable drop, and basically Hunter, Shaman, Priest, even Mage, Druid, Warrior, all kind of around there. I feel like Warrior is underplayed, so most people that pick it are 1, noobs, or 2, just have very little experience to play it. So I don't think Warrior is that much worse than Druid. I think there's even some chance that Warrior is better than Druid in Arena right now. But on the high end, the classes that are played a lot, the classes that have traditionally been very good, yeah, they're good. In fact, it's Mage that is the most surprising one. People really know how to play Mage, yet it has an 48.5% win rate. So Mage is actually not doing too well, though I still see a lot of them on Arena right now, so it's important to know what to play around. So basically what I'm going to show you guys is the most common cards people encounter in, hundreds of thousands of examples from Hearthstone Replay. And with this, we have some idea about what's in other people's decks. So when you draft, you can draft on your own. You can draft with an assist tool like the Hearth Arena tool that I am partnered with. And you have your own deck. But that doesn't give you a very deep understanding of what your opponent has in their deck on average. For that, you need large-scale statistics, and that's what we're going to go over here today. So first, I'm going to go over the top 10 most common neutral cards in Arena. So first, we have Bone Drake. 43% of decks have Bone Drakes, and it's typically a bit more than 1 copies. So basically, half the decks out there have Bone Drakes. Half of the decks out there have Bone Drakes. That is a lot of Bone Drake. There's a lot of dragons. What does that mean? It means that if you get silence removal, you're typically going to find a target for it, because Bone Drake is kind of like a big minion with a big minion inside of it. So if you have like a polymorph-like effect, you should probably leverage taking it, because it turns out a lot of people have Bone Drakes. If you happen to get a Dragon Slayer, the Dragon Slayer is not a common card. It's not on the top 10, but it seems like just about everyone has a Bone Drake, and especially at high wins because it's a good card. If you save your Dragon Slayer, you will usually, more often than not, demand value successfully. So it's a pretty interesting way to play. There's also a lot of taunts. So if you're playing an aggressive deck, you see that Stonehill's number 2, Stonehill's taunt within a taunt, it's important to have finisher cards. And finisher cards do not include charge cards. Charge cards do not go through taunt. So if you're playing an aggro deck, you should actually prioritize, alongside your aggro minions, of course, you should prioritize direct face damage. That's what you need. That's what you need to close out the game these days. Minions are not going to do it. You can't just play minions, especially with the consideration of the 3rd and 4th cards, which are both taunts and then more taunts. Fungalmancer fuels the idea of playing a lot of early game minions and protecting them with taunt minions. We have another taunt, we have another taunt, we have another taunt, Volcanosaur, which is typically a card you want to roll into taunt, and most importantly, coming in at number 10, Mind Control Tech. Mind Control Tech is roughly in one of 5 decks, but you have to keep in mind that, again, a lot of people who don't know what they're doing are typically ones not following the tier list. They don't know that a card like that is very good. So when you get to 5 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins, these percentages of these good common cards, they actually tend to go up. So the average 6, 7, 8 win deck is not going to have 1 in 5 chance of having Mind Control Tech. It's going to be a lot higher than that. I don't know what the chances are. The statistics are not easily available with things like that, but I can tell you from vast amounts of experience, that's how it works. So yeah, if you're at 0-0, the chance you're encountering a Mind Control Tech is 1 in 5. If your opponent has gone through half his deck, let's say it's 1 in 10, 10% chance. Should you play around 10% of a Mind Control Tech? Maybe, given board state, if you're winning by a lot and you have 3 big minions and you're playing Paladin and you think you want a hero power, putting you at 4 minions, maybe that's not worth it. Maybe it doesn't value enough 10% chance to get absolutely brutalized that game by a Mind Control Tech. Maybe it's not worth it. You have to make that judgment call, but with this information, you are empowered to make a more correct decision. So that's kind of the idea. We play the percentage games. But you know what? If you're at 6 wins and you're in that very same situation, maybe it's a pretty easy decision, because at 6 wins, I would wager that 1 in 5 chance of them having Mind Control Tech is likely doubled. So you're going to play about 20% chance to face Mind Control Tech with half the deck drawn? Yeah, you probably should, because 20% chance to lose the game on the spot when you're actually winning it already, that's something you want to avoid. So it's very important to understand these statistics and to kind of leverage your experience playing the game, mesh them really well together, and you're going to start doing really well in Arena. Now, let's cover some of the top and some of the popular classes so we can get an idea of how the recent hotfixes changed the Arena metagame structure. Number 1, we have Rogue. So Rogue is very much the same as before. We have Elven Minstrel, very high, 70% of chance in a deck is extremely high. Basically, that means every single deck has Elven Minstrel. A lot of decks have Hallucination, Bone Drakes, Fan of Knives. So we see kind of a reoccurring theme here where a lot of these cards are cards within a card. So it basically means that most people playing Rogue decks are not going to run out of cards. The Rogue deck's strength has traditionally been early game, but these are early game cards that fuel your late game. So a Rogue these days in Arena is more so than before going to have good sustain. So you can't wait out a Rogue as often as you could have in the past. And that's a very important piece of information. That means you might need to play a bit more aggressively. You might need to take on more risk. We also don't see cards like Assassinate. We don't see cards like Sap. Yes, we see some, Envenom Weapon removal options, but that results in the Rogue taking damage. So it seems like, while Rogue is the number 1 class right now, it's harder to outlast the Rogue, but it seems easier to push the Rogue out of the game by dealing face damage. So how about that? And that's probably your go-to win situation against the most powerful class in Arena right now. Next up, I wanted to cover Paladin. While Warlock is second, we see a hell of a lot more Paladins, so let's talk about that. We have Silver Sword at the very top, 71% of decks. That basically means that you should take weapon removal. Even though Hearth Arena might suggest weapon removal is not that valuable, on average, it is correct. Hearth Arena's statistics for the values on their cards they're statistically driven, so they're on average correct. But you know what? You want to be a pro Arena player, you want to make it to 10 wins, you want to make it to 11 wins, you want to make it maybe to 12 wins. So to get there, you're going to play a lot of Paladins. Yeah, you're not going to play that many Paladins, that many Rogues, that many whatever at 0-0. But when you get to like 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, it's going to be Paladin, 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 Rogue, Paladin, Paladin, Rogue, Mage. It's that. That's what it is. So against those classes, Rogue being number 1, Paladin being number 3, but very, very popular, you're going to need that weapon removal. When Silver Sword is the number 1 picked card for Paladin, you need weapon removal. Weapon removal is extremely valuable if you want to go late in Arena. And we can tell a few more things. So Spike Ridge Steed has a lower chance of showing up, but it's still very high. So it's still pretty important, but not quite as important as before to get the board clear, specifically on that turn 6, the dreaded turn 6 Paladin play. We also see that Equality is the second top card for Paladin, but we don't see Consecration on the list anymore. We actually don't see very much direct damage on the list anymore. We see like none of that. So Paladins have a lot of stat manipulation effects, but when you're drafting Paladin and you see like, Consecration, True Silver, let me take a True Silver because I don't have a weapon. Well, look at that list. There's a hell of a lot of weapons, all right? So if you're drafting Paladin from knowing this information, I would recommend that you pick Consecration a lot more than these drafting tools suggest, because that Equality Consecration combo is really good, and Consecration is typically in the same bucket as a lot of other powerful weapons, but the other powerful weapons are seen a lot more than Consecration. So again, you have to leverage these stats into how you play, into how your opponents play, and interesting stuff. Then let's move on to Warlock. Warlock, number 1 card by a lot is Defile. So Defile is a bit of a tricky card. It can be very difficult to play around Defile, but with that occurrence, I think this is the most played card across all classes. I think it's actually Defile. 74% of decks have Defile. I think that's the highest one currently. So if you're ever going to play around a card, that card should be Defile. It is the most common single card when you play against any specific class, that being Warlock, I guess. Then we see Shadow Flame, so we see a lot of board clears. Possibly this is why Warlock is doing really well. It has an extremely high occurrence chance of board clears, and that information should empower you to play around them a little bit better. Both Defile and Shadow Flame don't do very well against single target minions, but then we see Siphon Soul number 3. So it seems like the Warlock toolkit is really what's leading it to be high up there, but there's not a lot of play around against direct damage cards, so, possibly cards that do direct face damage are going to be more valuable. Possibly weapons that you can just slam face are going to be more valuable. But again, we see that there's no silence removal there. Warlock doesn't have a lot of that, and that's kind of going to be a bit of a trend that we're going to kind of keep in mind here. Moving on to Priest. Priest is not a particularly strong class right now, but it does show up a decent amount, at least in my Arena runs. And it, in my opinion, it has the most change since the prior version of Arena from like last week. Number 1 card in Priest, Shadow Madness. Who would have thought? I've been getting Shadow Madness a lot in Arena lately, and it looks like it's not coincidence. It looks like it's just the most common card. So should you play around Shadow Madness on turn 4? Yes, you should, because if you're a Priest, the most common card in your deck is going to be Shadow Madness, and Shadow Madness is a card that you do in fact keep in your opening hand, and it's a card that you are very pleased to draw as the game progresses. So an opponent having Shadow Madness is extremely likely. Extremely likely. So keep that in mind when you're doing your early game plays. Yes, sometimes against Priest, you have to go all in just to crush them so they can't utilize their hero power for value. But you know what? With that kind of occurrence, you have to respect the fact that they're going to have Shadow Madness very often. Free from Amber, it's always been high. A lot of the ones have been high, but Holy Water is really high as well. Holy Water is not a particularly efficient removal, but it's a particularly efficient removal against Bone Drake. It's actually pretty damn good against Bone Drake. Low health, high impact minions like Bone Drake are very susceptible to Holy Water. So, it can be hard to play around Holy Water because it's essentially a fairly high damage removal. But if you're playing with Bone Drake, and if you're playing Arena, you're playing with Bone Drake, maybe you should not break that 4 damage threshold. Maybe if you're playing Bone Drake and you can take damage on another minion, maybe you should do that. Maybe you should not injure your Bone Drake so it gets Holy Watered, especially if you're playing a value game against Priest. The rest of the cards are not too unusual for Priest, but Shadow Madness, I think, moved up from not the top 10 to number 1, so that's very important. Lastly, I want to talk about Mage. I did mention that Mage is not doing particularly well right now, but I think that can be fixed by some, drafting edits. And yeah, here's Mage. We already know Blizzard's #1 card. We see Explosive Runes is the second most popular card. So again, if the Mage is playing a secret against you, it is almost always going to be Explosive Runes. That is the card you need to respect. It doesn't matter the rarity. It doesn't matter that it's rare. It doesn't matter. That's just what it is. This is how Arena works right now. That's the most common secret. We have to find it out through like third-party, statistics websites like Hearthstone Replay, but that's what it is. And Explosive Runes is the secret you need to play around. Bone Drake is the third most popular card for Mage. How about that? That is absolutely insane. So again, anti-dragon tech, silence removal is very valuable. And then we see Polymorph. How about that? I cut off the win rates and stuff because it might be a little bit confusing, but Polymorph is actually, next to Flamestrike, the highest win rate played card in Mage. And the reason is, yes, they have Bone Drakes. You have Bone Drakes, they have Bone Drakes. Everyone else has Bone Drakes. Silence removal is extremely powerful. There's very few classes that have hard removal, let alone silence hard removal. So Polymorph as a standalone is going to perform a lot better than you think it might, just because that's what people are playing right now. The rest of the stuff is just, a lot of common removal stuff. Bonfire Elemental is kind of an interesting one, but yeah, whatever. You pick elementals if they're good, not for synergy typically anymore, but whatever. So that's kind of how it is. Empower yourself with statistics like these. Empower yourself by just playing. Value that experience. You have to combine your feel for the game with the statistics so you can accurately play around what your opponent might have, so you can accurately draft to go the long game in Arena. If you're always abiding by these drafting tools, which they're very good, I do recommend you use them. I do recommend you try Hearth Arena. You have to know there's some exceptions. You're going to need oozes. You're going to need weapon removal if you want to go consistently 12 wins. You're just going to need that. You're going to need silence removal. If you can pick it up, it's very important because everyone's going to have Bone Drakes. And when you get the high wins, everyone has multiple Bone Drakes. So it's important to realize what people are playing, what people are doing. Play the game, do your best, and hopefully I've helped out. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.